How many people have sections of poetry memorized in here? Got a handful, right? Okay. That's beautiful. We as Christians ought to use our minds for such a thing. And the biblical picture is that the mind was meant to be used. But even bigger than that, when we kind of press at a bigger picture here, it's clear that God is reasonable, right? And what I mean by that, I don't mean that God is somehow subject to human reason. I mean that God, in his grandness of the mind of God, the fact that he is reasonable, that he is wise, that all his thoughts make sense together, that they fit together. The very fact that God is reasonable is the reason that humanity is reasonable, that human reason even works because God is reasonable. It's our hope that God is wise beyond understanding. When we don't understand God's plan, it's because it's too complex. It's not because it's irrational. Could you imagine what it would be like if God were irrational? If God did things that didn't make sense? That did things that weren't understandable? It's our hope that his plan is going to fit together, that everything's going to make sense, that when we come upon that final day that we'll see that everything had a purpose, everything had a reason, that he used in his greatness and his wisdom to make all things work together for good. It's because God is reasonable, that we're created in his image, that we are designed to be reasonable. We're designed to be thinking beings who put thoughts together. We can see from nature that humanity was created different from the animals, right? Particularly in the way that we think. Now, I'm not one of those people who thinks that animals can't think. In fact, we had a dog when I was young who had this amazing ability. He wanted to sit in the rocking, reclining chair, right? But my mom would not let him sit in that chair. But he knew the sound of me coming up the steps because he wouldn't get off the chair when I got to the top of the steps. But when my mom came up the steps, he would jump off the chair and lay on the floor like he'd been laying there the whole time, right? And as he got older, it was funny because he couldn't hear very well. So when you got right at the top of the steps, all of a sudden he's on the floor and the chair's rocking like this, you know? So clearly animals think, right? But animals don't build airplanes. Monkeys don't have courts of justice, right? They don't create works of art. But humanity does. Humanity has a capacity to think in a way that is unprecedented in the rest of the world.